Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. As you know, my name is Rob, and in today's video, we are making this charcuterie board right here. Stick around because this build starts right now.
Alright, to get this build started, first thing we've got to do is build a mold, which is really just a box, and we're going to make sure that box is completely covered in tuck tape. Why? Because resin doesn't stick to tuck tape. Next thing we're going to do once this box is made is we're going to flip it upside down and apply silicone all over the bottom. This silicone on the bottom will give us the barrier we need to make sure that our resin doesn't leak all over the place. Next we'll flip over our mold and we'll apply clamps to the corners. And we're not going to squeeze out all the silicone, but we are going to squeeze out just enough so that we got a good bead all around the inside and out. And I'll spread it around my finger to ensure that every square inch of the bottom is covered and we won't get a leak. Next I'll place my walnut wood in my mold and make sure I weight it down because wood will always float. Now next thing I got to do is level the actual table, because if you don't, the resin will always go to the deepest part and fill up that first. So you may end up with all the resin on one side. Once that's all done, I'm able to start mixing my resin, and of course the resin is a two-part resin. One is the resin itself and one is a hardener. I will then add a bit of color. Here I'm adding purple and ghost white, and I'll literally mix this for a good 5 minutes. You want to make sure that your resin is thoroughly mixed so that this way you don't get soft spots in the middle of your board. Once I got it mixed well, I'm going to start to pour. And what I'll do is I'll pour it and I'll wait a while and let the bucket drain all the resin that's there. And then eventually I'll wait for about 10 or 15 minutes and I'll take a torch and just go over the actual resin itself to break any bubbles that are on the top. Next I'll wait about 6 hours and then I'll come back down and I'll do a swirl in the actual resin. As you can see, the resin itself has now hardened up a little bit, and so swirling it here will leave a pattern in it, and this pattern will stay. Next I'll wait another few minutes and then I'll pass the torch on again, just to bust any bubbles that have come to the surface. At this point I'm going to let my project sit for the next 3 days so that the resin fully hardens, and then I'm going to take it out of its mold. But one thing to know that I'm actually not going to touch it or start sanding or doing anything until another 4 days to ensure that that resin is fully cured. Now this board is going to stick a little bit, but like I said, the tuck tape will make it really easy to pop out, and there it goes, it's already popped out. And there you have it, your board ready to start planing and eventually sanding. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot to record me planing it, but I passed it through the planer through the top and bottom, got it nice and flat, and moved on to the sanding. Now, as I mentioned before, sanding is always the same, right to left, overlapping 50%, up and down, overlapping 50%, never exceeding more than 1 inch per second. So my technique is I'll sand with 60 grit, 80 grit, and then moving over to do my round over or my chamfer. Here I'm doing a chamfer. And I like to do it this way because if there's any marks that are left by my actual router, I can clean them up with the sandpapers that come. And of course the next sandpapers are the 120, 150, 180, all the way up to 1500. And when I get up to that 1500, what ends up happening is you got a nice flat board, and the actual resin is nice, as you see there, but it's a little cloudy. So next what we have to do is we have to start polishing the resin so that shine comes out. So what I use is turtle wax polishing compound. It's actually for a car. But what I do is I put a little bit of water on the board and I use my red bonnet, put a little bit of the compound on, and then start to pass it over with the actual red bonnet. And what you'll see is I'm actually going lightly at the beginning, and I'll increase the pressure more and more and more so that I'm getting nice and deep and into that resin so that the shine starts to come out. Once I'm actually done the red bonnet, I move on to the black bonnet. And the black bonnet is the finishing bonnet. And this is where all your shine comes. So I'll wipe down the polishing compound from the red bonnet and then apply water and a new coat of the polishing compound for the black bonnet. Now here's where all your shine comes out, because if you've taken your time to sand properly and you took your time to polish your resin, I can guarantee you your resin will have a glass-like finish. If you've made it this far through the video, I would imagine you've gotten some useful tips out of how to make your own charcuterie board. So I'd like to ask you for a small favor. Can you hit that like and subscribe button? It really helps out a new channel like mine. So I am done polishing here, and I want to show you the before and after. Look at that great shine. Look how beautiful it looks. And there was before we actually started buffing and after, and you could just see a huge difference in shine, and that cloudiness is now gone. Our last step is to oil our board. I always do the bottom first, and then here it's already done. So now we're just going to do the top, and of course all I do is spread a generous amount of oil to the board. Now this has a dual benefit. One, the board absorbs that oil and it coats it and it protects it from moisture or any of the elements. And two, my hands become really soft. And secretly I think my wife becomes a little jealous that my hands are softer than hers. Now, after I've applied the oil, I will let the oil sit on the board for 20 minutes. This gives the board some time to actually absorb that oil. Then after 20 minutes, take 2 shop rags, and 1 shop rag will be to remove the excess oil. And the other rag will be for buffing. Now, if you just wipe the oil off, you're going to get a dull shine on your wood. And by taking that secondary cloth and really rubbing on it and generating heat with your palm, you see that shine come out in the wood. Now, if you got this far into your project and you see swirl marks, whether it be in the wood or in the resin, unfortunately, there's no real shortcut to fix it. What you got to do is you got to go back to something like 150 grit and start sanding right from the beginning again. The bottom line is you got to take your time with wood and resin, and if you put in that time, you will get a stunning piece. And I must admit, this piece came out beautiful in my opinion, and to tell you the truth, I haven't sold it yet, and I've been wondering, should I sell it or should I keep it for myself? So there it is. What do you think? Thank you very much for spending your time with me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in future videos.